All right. Hello, everyone. How we doing today? Hope everyone is having a killer day so far. Go ahead and just lower my mic a tad. Make sure I don't blow out any ears there. All right. Got a fun show today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff has happened here in the last few days, but let's pay some bills. Welcome to Lou Reviews, the destination for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. Please don't forget to smack that like button, share, and subscribe. It, of course, helps with the algorithm, and that way you are notified. Ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime the show goes live. And if you want to support us with the almighty dollar, we have links in the description below. Today we're going to cover AARO Director Kirkpatrick's discussion at the Hayden Center. A lot of interesting things he said there. We're also going to talk about Lou's delayed book. Turns out that the book was supposed to be out already, I believe, this week. We're going to look into the information on that. And then a very interesting thing, it seems like someone has created a chat GPT for FOIA requests. So we're going to take a look at that. And of course, Jeremy Corbell in his stupid high noon release. Yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about and a couple other things as well. So yeah, let's dive into it, shall we? Let's go ahead and say hello to everyone in the chat that's here. See you, Justin S., Dwayne Wise. Was I discussing women's weight on Twitter today? Do you mean UAP Mike's terrorizing wife, Joyce? Yeah, I took a little poke fun at them. You know, every space that I've been going into that I hear UAP Mike in, there's always some kind of comment or some joke about my weight. There's always a fat joke. And the reason why there's always a fat joke is because his intelligence is pretty fucking low. And he's a bully. And like most bullies, they usually go for the first thing that they can make fun of, the easiest thing. There's never any intelligence in the humor. But yeah, last night, he was talking about McDonald's dipping sauces in a space and told the entire party that I would be the one who would know the best about dipping sauces at McDonald's because I'm so fat. But then when you take a picture of UAP Mike, you notice a couple things. He's got a double chin and he's got man tits, just like me. So it's like fat on fat crime. What's the deal, man? You know, like, is it really necessary? But just in case nobody believes me, there's a double chin there. I like to call it Mike Part Deux. And then we've got our man boobs over here. You know, so for a guy who makes so many fat jokes, look in the mirror, pal. Look in the mirror. You're not that great of shape yourself. So moving on. Oh, hi. All right. So let's get into the news and what we're going to be talking about. So let me go ahead. Oh, let me go back to this and let me go to my bookmarks here. So the first thing I want to talk about today is, let's see here. The first thing is the book, Lou Elizondo's book that is officially a month late. Jeremy McGowan. I love that Jeremy McGowan keeps eyes on things like this. It's so funny. He noticed two things this week that were just, you know, again, like I know there's people out there always watching stuff like this, and McGowan's one of them. So the now infamous audiobook from Lou Elizondo is officially a month late. It was supposed to be published last month. At 7 hours and 30 minutes long, he described the world's most, he's described as the world's most credible authority on UAP and UFOs. And he was to tell the world what's inside UAPs and where do UAP go between sightings. The book book description also doubles down that Liu was, quote, posted as director of the U.S. government's highly sensitive advanced aerospace threat identification program, ATIP, in 2008, and that he led an international effort to study UAP. It was to be published as a quote, nonfiction. So this is the description of the book: the Roswell crash site, the Phoenix Lights, Area 51, sightings, conspiracies, glimpses of the unexplained, decades of questions unanswered. Forget what you think you know about unidentified flying objects. On June 25th, 2021, the Pentagon released a historic report confirming 144 of unidentified aerial phenomena with no easy explanation. The U.S. Navy and Air Force have confirmed ongoing sightings of bizarre objects moving at blinding speeds, often around nuclear and defense sites. Barack Obama has publicly acknowledged the concern. So we're going to get to, we're in a way going to get to these 144 incidents once we go over Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick's comments at the Hayden Center in Maryland. And it kind of contradicts how bizarre and no easy explanations. There are a lot of easy explanations for a lot of these things that pilots see. One of them being just old training, not up-to-date training to be able to identify these new things in the sky that they're mistaking for UAP. And he goes on at one point to say that sometimes the pilots even know that they're balloons, but for some reason they still mark them as UAP, and then that gets filed in with the unidentified, classification. So Luis Elizondo spent an accomplished military career hunting drug traffickers and terrorists before being posted as director of U.S. government's highly sensitive advanced aerospace threat identification program in 2008. In that capacity, Elizondo led an international effort to study UFOs around the world. Shocked by what they found, Elizondo told his commanding officers, "The world needs the full truth." When Elizondo's superiors refused, he resigned his post in order to go public. Since then, he has led the global disclosure effort. Things that they talk about in this book: are we alone? Or questions that they're asking, I guess. Are governments in possession of wreckage? What do we know about the science and tech of UAP? Have UAP compromised our nuclear weapons caches? What's inside a UAP? What's inside a UAP? Where do UAP go between sightings? I don't know. Fridays? Denny's? The library? I have no idea, and neither does Lou Elizondo. Do they have a base, or do they live among us? And the biggest question of all is, who are they? As a civilian with high-level national security clearance, Elizondo is widely viewed as the world's most credible authority on UAP and UFOs. This is a guy who in his last interview said he's not a UFO guy. He's a counterintelligence and espionage guy. He's never been into UFOs, never has been, never will be. But his book description says he's widely known as the world's most credible authority on UFOs. This memoir reveals groundbreaking, even shocking details of what ATIP learned and the profound implications, not just for humanity, but for everything we think we know about our lonely place in the future. Groundbreaking, even shocking details. They're not going to be groundbreaking, and they will not be shocking whatsoever, the details in this book. There's going to be no secrets. There's going to be no inside information. It's just a book being sold as fiction. It's a bunch of trust me bros. So buyer beware. The book has been delayed a year. We found out let's see here. People making fun of it, of course. But Stephen Greenstreet had a good quote. He had contacted the publisher of the book. And yeah, so here we go. Australian bookstore has the listing for disclosure, an unpublished memoir by UFO celebrity Lou Elizondo. Elizondo, a former Pentagon official, signed the book deal 2 years ago with Booktopia. Let's see here. So there's the link for that. Elizondo apparently triples down on his false claims that he was director of ATIP. Here we go. Update. Spoke to a representative at Booktopia who stated the listing is a real listing for a real book that was, quote, taken off last month and made unlisted for some reason. That's the quote from Booktopia. We took it off the shelf last month and made it unlisted for some reason. They didn't have any further details regarding the book and why it was made unlisted. Unreal. And update number 2, Elizondo's UFO book appears on a Dutch bookstore's website with the same wacky description as the Australian one above. It's just so silly, man. It's absolutely so silly. So the book's been delayed a year. October 12th, 2023, we have a release date. The audiobook is 7 hours and 30 minutes long. It looks like Lou Elizondo authors this himself. So he didn't even get somebody to write it for him. That's going to be interesting because he's not an author. Nowhere in that really fancy resume does it say he's a writer. Anywhere. And, you know, knowing the text messages that are publicly out there, he's either really great with grammar or really terrible with grammar. Either way, the list is 10 people or 5. Yeah. Buyer beware. Buyer beware of this book. You know, again, set your expectations if you are a believer and a supporter of Lou Elizondo, but yeah, it's not looking good. I mean, that's a very mysterious reason to pull a book that you know is going to be a big seller. I'm assuming that Booktopia knows, and that's not even it's not as prestigious of a book publisher as we first initially thought was going to publish this book. And the fact that there is no other author for it, there's no one co-authoring this bioepic of Luis Elizondo and his time in ATIP. I think it's going to be a really boring book. Not very well written, not very interesting, and like I said, no real revelations whatsoever. It's going to be the same thing that we know today on October 12th, 2023. There's going to be zero difference. So we'll see who's right. All right, so that's the failed book. And I'm wondering, you know, it's a good question to ask. Did it get pulled because maybe his facts don't check out? Did it get pulled because he didn't meet a deadline? Did it get pulled because there is classified information in there and the Pentagon said, whoa, we got to rewrite some of this stuff? I doubt it's the latter. All right. Anyway, I want to say hello to everybody. Compliz here, Simon Fly, Justin S., Michael Huntington, Silly Goose, Beverly Holmes. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for being here. David Wartsky, Dwayne Wise, Yoshi. That book will be a bunch of grush. Yeah, stream is working great today, right? I had my internet company come out here and fix the internet. So it's looking really good. We're not dropping any frames whatsoever. So who knows? Maybe next stream we'll pump it up to 60 frames per second. We'll get crazy. KMF and UAP Mike are lovers. This is very true. This is very, very true. Okay, so let's see here. What is up next? Let me check my messages here. Man, I wish I could tell you guys what I've been doing the last couple weeks. Holy cow, it's gonna blow your minds. It's gonna blow your minds. It's just pinch yourself moments. All right, let's see here. So this was an interesting clip from David Grush a couple of days ago, and who is Axelrod, who of course just always posts these wonderful clips with some great insight and opinions on sort of what she's posting. So she writes, and this is at GoKickRocks88 on Twitter. Go _kick_rocks88 on Twitter. Wait, what? So Grush went to the ICIG because he was facing reprisals from the DODIG, but now the DODIG is looking into reprisals after he came forward? Seems a bit ass backwards to me. And so let's listen to the quote. And let me go ahead and just say, before we post this quote, we got to go ahead and do our wonderful, where is it? If I can find it. Oh, it's on this side. That's why I changed some things around here. So struggling to find buttons. There we go. So we got fair use. This is transformative work. We're educating the public on these clips, and this is covered under fair use and allowable by law. So let's go ahead and play this clip. This is from the ICER conference in Italy, which was just insane. I mean, he basically, he got a lot of flack on Twitter for looking like he's been on a bit of a bender. It looks like he's in a bathrobe, and he is not shaved in a long time. Ma the Meatloaf has come up quite a bit, that quote. So yeah, anyway, so this is David Grush commenting on the ICIG and him facing reprisals from the DODIG. Oh, you guys can't hear this. You guys can't hear this. Let me go ahead and pop this up for you. Sorry about that. There we go.
There were some high-level officials in some former agencies I worked for that were very unhappy to see my face on television, and some of the pushback I got after I went public is I have told Congress that behind closed doors, and so the Department of Defense Inspector General are looking at some of the reprisal aspects after I went public as well, because there's some things that Congress may disclose in the future about certain elements of the U.S. government that were unhappy with me going public.
So I've also heard that a lot of people within the intelligence community are really pissed off at this guy, because right now he's creating a lot of confusion and he's making a lot of people within the intelligence community look really dumb. Because a lot of them in the intelligence community feel like David Grush is repeating information that he's not accurate about. Not that he doesn't believe it or that he's telling a lie, but that the information that he's looking at, he believes is true, and he has no evidence to prove it. We've already established this a billion times. And he's saying that the Department of Defense Inspector General is looking into reprisals after he came forward. So, and again, that should be the intelligence community inspector general doing that first. But no, for some reason, the DOD is doing it first. And and also he was supposed to have a SCIF meeting this week. Turns out they canceled that. And it was the Republican leadership that canceled it. There's this excuse that, oh, it's the holidays, everybody's leaving town early, and they just didn't have time or they didn't want to do this. It's the biggest secret in the world, apparently. Reverse engineering programs with biological entities, this inference of reverse engineered alien craft with alien bodies. And we don't have time to talk about it in a classified setting with the guy who claims all of these things are true. We cancel the meeting at a perfect time. Like it's right before the holidays. Other than World War III, on the brink of it anyway, it's pretty quiet. I feel like on the hill because they're at a standstill anyway. it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that they would cancel this whatsoever. And it doesn't make any sense that, again, the DODIG is investigating this first. And it just, none of this makes sense. And honestly, it looks like David Grush has been through the ringer. Looks like he's not having fun anymore. And I think he's really starting to feel the pressures of maybe some of the mistakes he made, or he's maybe he's starting to feel the pressure that the real secrets are about to pop off. I don't think that's the case. I think he thinks he's in more trouble than he is looking to be a hero. And again, there are 40 more witnesses. I think the best thing that these guys should have done is all come out on the same day together. Hey, these are the 40 witnesses. These are the 40 government employees. Deny this. We are publicly telling you this, and this. Here's where the programs are. Here's who runs them. Here's how much they cost. Here's why they haven't been available to Congress and there's no oversight on them. Here it is. But that hasn't happened. Oh, gee, I wonder why. We still haven't seen anyone come out, any of his former colleagues, come out and back up what he's saying. Not one. So you had that awkward thing happen. Then, boy, oh boy, we get the high noon drop of the century. And this is not even the original article. This is just immediately after it was released. So Jeremy Corbell releases a really, really, really blurry image that could be a smokestack with smoke coming out of it. I mean, you really cannot tell because it looks like a huge plume of smoke, a blurry plume of smoke with two what looks like eyeballs. And a lot of people are calling this thing the Kermit the Frog, the Kermit UFO, Kermit, because it looks like the top of Kermit the Frog's head. And it's the worst photo maybe to ever be released as a important thing to pay attention to when it comes to the UFO discussion. Like, it is the worst photo of all time. And so this person compares it to a smokestack, as you can see, when you pull out and they're right next to each other. Like, you could easily see, like, not easily, because again, it's blurry, but like the stack even is like striped, like red and white. I mean, you can't see the colors, but you could see what looks like a clear stripe in this line in the photo. So when compared to a smokestack, yeah, they kind of line up. But then the rest of it is just absolutely pixelated garbage. Pixelated garbage. And the story is that the Royal Air Force, the British Royal Air Force, shot at this thing, this UAP, and this is the photo from that incident. Jeremy Corbell has gotten so much flack for this post, but what do you think he does? I'd love to know what the audience thinks Jeremy Corbell's move after this post was. I feel like I'd already hear everybody yelling at the top of their lungs. Yep, that's right. He doubled down. He doubled down on this stupid story. And the biggest, well, first of all, the main story, this story is not new. It's not a classified story. It's something that was talked about earlier. And the thing that they shot down was a drone. It was a drone. And this drone has been, Stephen Greenstreet again, I believe, has photos. Yeah, here we go. So left image is a military image of a UFO leaked to a UFO celebrity. The other two images are of non-human made coaxial drones. The aliens need to stop stealing our intellectual property. And so when you compare these coaxial drones that look like for those listening in the radio world, they look like essentially an oval dome with another dome on top of it, and in between those two domes is a helicopter blade, and then underneath it is another helicopter blade, and then underneath that are imaging sensors and camera systems and things like that. And then it's got a tripod for a landing system. So it's a very simply designed drone, and these things are owned by our enemies. These things are owned by us. These things have been in the air for a very, 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 very long time, like 2 decades, 10, 20 years kind of technology. This is nothing new whatsoever. But what does Jeremy Corbell do? He takes a really photo image of one, blasts it up, changes the official story reported by the BBC and adds his own fantasy spin to it. And then when the entire world calls him out, he doubles down, because it doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter what he says, right, guys? Like, who cares? Who cares what he says? Like, it's so silly. I made a tweet here a couple days ago about it, and I think it's so relevant, and it's just something like I want you guys to think about right here. So keep in mind that the Mosul orb released by Jeremy Corbell was a balloon. The Baghdad Phantom, I can't say it was a balloon, but can be explained as a balloon. Easily explained as a balloon. The Baghdad Phantom can easily be explained as a missile. The flying pyramids are 100% drones. Those are not pyramids. Those are not extraterrestrial craft. Those are not UAP. Those are drones. The 29 Palms mass UFO event, that is guaranteed 100% been determined that was flares. A military exercise with a ton of flares. Never corrected it. Element 115, he's never ever produced a piece of Element 115, neither him, George Knapp, or Bob Lazar. The Navy footage of the orb going submersible, that was a targeting balloon. And then could easily be explained as a targeting balloon. And then we've got the RAF shootdown that he just released, which is a drone. And that was the official public story behind it. And also keep in mind that all of these hoaxes, uncorrected stories that is what makes up Weaponized and George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell and that whole universe. This is what they do. They add mystery and fantasy to everyday objects. They double down on it, and then they don't correct it when everybody has proven it to be wrong. They come out and they say, oh, all we want is the real answers. We just want answers like everybody else. And when everybody's screaming the answers at it, it's just like, I can't hear you. What? What are you guys saying? You figured it out. I can't hear you. It's... like they have a whistleblower, apparently the most important whistleblower of all time in Bob Lazar, and they haven't brought him forward to Congress. Why? Gee, I wonder why. Probably because they're lying. They're lying about all of this stuff. Why is Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp now? Keep it again, all of these hoaxes, all of these lies, all of these non-corrections, and these are the two guys sitting behind Dave Grush in a congressional hearing in the front row. 2 hoaxsters, unreliable narrators, as Jack Brewer likes to call them. These guys have front row tickets to the most important discussion on humankind. After all of these proven hoaxes, why? Why does that not bother Danny Silva or Joe Murgia? Why don't UAP Mike and King Milkfart attack Jeremy Corbell with the veracity and the meanness and the absolute insanity that they do just simple everyday people who are making simple questions? Why are you guys not holding Ross Coulthard's feet to the fire as much as you do mine or anyone else's that ask questions in this field? with the track record of bogus shit that these guys have. So that's the other thing that happened this week. Oh, by the way, Andre 3000 is releasing a new album, so that's going to be awesome. Apparently, it's very flute heavy. I'm going to be interested. I'm interested to see what that's all about. Let's see here. Let me check out the chat. Hello, everyone. New people who are here that I didn't call up before. Harassment Archive was shaken. Skinny Bob was shaken. Psychochronic was shaken. That's a Bad Kitty. Hello. Art and Paranormal, welcome. You guys rule. Remember Sawan got the UAP talk specifically for Corbell. Did I miss this? Oh, no, I didn't miss it. I just got it right there. There we go. Thank you for the super chat. Remember, Sawan got the UAP talk specifically for calling Corbell a grifter. Yeah, they're not allowed to call Corbell a grifter. And you know what? Anytime Danny Silva gets close to to criticizing this stuff, I know for sure he gets a phone call or a text from one of those guys. Be like, just hang in there a little longer, buddy. Don't worry, it's coming, man. You're going to be validated, I promise. Like, we'll see. We shall see. Okay. See, are we on the bookmarks? There we go. Okay, this is also this is something really perfect, like the perfect thing that Aerotech Research wrote when this Corbell drop came out. Here's how Corbell works. Number one, get military images leaked to him. See David Grush. Number two, purposely navigates a story about image to deceive viewers that it's something anomalous. Number three, contacts Chris Sharp at the Liberation Times or Daily Mail UK to write an article verifying what he just said, his account through an article written in favor of his theories, which is true. That's exactly what the Liberation Times does. That's exactly what the Daily Mail does over there at the Daily Mail UK. And all of those UK guys, for the record, that includes Ryan Sprague now, since he's in the UK. That's Vinnie Adams. That's Disclosure Team, the same people, basically. That's any of the Disclosure Girls. That's That UFO Podcast. That's UAP Media UK. Anyone connected to any of those organizations, I highly recommend staying away from. They're terrible resources of information, and they add a lot of confusion to a already confusing discussion, and they also add a lot of targeted harassment, especially to people like Kirkpatrick and scientists on the panels and things like that. So yeah. Number 4, teases some big reveal in next episode of Weaponized. Number 5, uploads episode when Sharp is ready to publish his article, which is true. They always coincide, Sharp's article, with the Weaponized release. And like, this is what Corbell does. He uses certain voices in the community to propagate his bullshit. Number 6, Sharp posts his article. Number 7, Corbell tweets out Sharp's article to give his relevance. And that's exactly right. And it's always funny because Corbell will always post a Chris Sharp article, a Liberation Times article with, "These are hard stone facts. Great job, Chris Sharp." Like, it's always like the silliest endorsement. Like, who endorses something like that? Like, and it's every time. "These facts in this article are 100% accurate. Man, this Liberation Times is the best thing out there." Like, it's always some hype up bullshit like that. And it's funny because Chris Sharp was literally chosen by the first person to start pumping him up on radio shows was Sean Cahill. But you know what's funny is I was his very first Patreon member when we were buddies, when we were colleagues, when out of everyone, he seemed to be the most sensible, but when you really push him to it, He's not. He's now become one of the least sensible, especially since he's gotten so much criticism for all of the fake stories that he's helped pump out there. 29 Palms in particular, like there's no correction from anyone on that one. And that one is just probably the most egregious next to this one, this Kermit the Frog one that he's put out. This was a funny, is there any music with this?
And 95% of the 2-hour-long hearing signaling to the viewer.
Okay, so I don't know. I hope this music isn't copyrighted, but we'll see. I'll find out after the show. So this is a clip that Cosmic Judas put out. He said, Corbell Illuminati confirmed. I can tell you that Cosmic gave me a fun little tip that TikTok is the absolute Wild West now. He's like, it's basically YouTube from 2002 or whenever, YouTube started, and the UFO videos that used to be posted to YouTube and how easy and how crazy the things that were getting posted there. He's like, basically TikTok is the new version of that, and there's a lot of hidden treasures like this one. So let's take a listen.
During a congressional UAP hearing on July 26, 2023, Corbell was present in the front row. He even got a shout out in the opening address. He proceeded to spend 95% of the 2-hour-long hearing.
And that's true. Like, Jeremy Corbell got a shout out by lawmakers, Tim Burchett, in a congressional address, and he had front row seats. This is where you take two truths and then make up one huge lie or one huge leap.
Signaling to the viewer his occult affiliation. He holds his hands in a position making a pentagon a reference to the Freemasonic 5-pointed star or the primacy of man over God. It may seem innocuous, but he holds it almost the entire length of the hearing, barely moving a muscle. This would have been done consciously and signals to other fraternity members in attendance that he is part of the club and everything is going as planned.
So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, he basically did have his hands like this for the entire congressional hearing. But yeah, just because he has his hands like this doesn't mean anything. Also, like, if you saw anything of the hearing, everybody was crammed in really tight to these seats. Jeremy Corbell is one of the few people who has room, especially on his left side. And he's got his legs spread wide open. He's total man split there in this row. And then there was 2 seats reserved next to him. I can't remember who these 2 seats were supposed to go to, but I think they were supposed to be other whistleblowers that backed out, if I'm not mistaken. Don't take that one to the bank, but yeah, that was a funny little video. And then here we've got another awesome thread by Charlie Weiser at Like It Matters 3 on Twitter. And there's just been a lot of dumb shit said about Charlie Weiser after I gave her a lot of love here on the show. And I'll just say this right now for the record. When that whole Chupacabra thing went down and everybody was jumping on Tupa, you could have found a tweet from me at that point being like, I don't agree with everything that Milk Fart does, but on this one, I kind of applaud it. Like, I'm here for it. And so, when people don't see the behavior, and it's possible on Twitter, depending on how many people you see, for you to miss things, to miss behaviors, to miss bullying, to miss these red flags when it comes to these accounts on Twitter. And so, people trying to pin things on Charlie Weiser as if she's some part of a cabal to destroy Chupacabra and or to push the agenda of King Milkfart, when every single post she has is doing nothing but destroying the fantasy and the bullshit aspect of this discussion. So your arguments for Charlie Weiser being a false narrator in this discussion are falling on deaf ears. Go throw that shit somewhere else. I don't want to hear it. Honestly, I got no time for it. So she writes, you know what investigative Ross journalist is really bad at doing? Following up on investigations. Let's look at 3 of his cases that have been debunked so he just forgets about them. Which is true. And this is a really big thing, because just this last week, Ross Coulthard has officially been hired at News Nation as a correspondent, a full-time correspondent, and the first thing he's going to be talking about is JFK. Like, give me a fucking break, man. This guy is such a goonie, but it's it's wild. So Coulthard interviewed and verified as truthful Chris Leto's Outback UFO witness, who, as suggested by Tech and Fighter and demonstrated by me, used a flashlight behind a 35mm camera lens to make a fairly stupid looking UFO. So if you guys don't know about this, Chris Leto got UFO footage and promoted it, talked about it, made a ton of money off the views and the super chats that he collected off that live show. And the video was a flashlight behind a 35mm camera lens to make it look fairly stupid. And Chris Leto pushed this as a massive UFO sighting that was legit, verified, and real. And Ross Coulthard doubled down on it. And then it turned out to be fake, and he never corrected it. And neither did Chris Leto. They don't care. They don't care. All they give a shit about is the stream that they're doing in that moment and how much money and how many eyeballs and how many clicks they can get on the most sensational titles and the most sensational lies. Just straight up lies. Chris Leto has gone from a reliable, well-thinking fighter pilot that was adding a lot of wonderful things to this discussion in forms of clarity and rationality, and has done a complete 180 in less than a year. Ever since he launched his UFO coin, it has been nothing but straight downhill for Chris Leto. It is the most disappointing fall I've ever seen in this community. And I mean, there's videos of him making threats to lawmakers where he's lost his absolute mind. He's making, threats that they're going to remember people on the blockchain and that they should be arrested and killed for their UFO beliefs. It's crazy. So then we go to Ross Coulthard scraping the rust off of Jim's balls and gave it to Gary Nolan, who thought the ball might be an alien scout ship. Yes, he actually said that. It's an industrial ball check valve weighing exactly 50 pounds. Coulthard knows this because only an utter moron would not know this. Did Coulthard think of his interview with Jim and ponder whether Jim was perhaps exaggerating or stoned or lying? Nope. He just reported on it, and he told everybody that it was groundbreaking, game-shifting evidence that is going to change the world. And then they gave the ball shavings to Gary Nolan, who again is an immunologist. He's not a metallurgist, so I'm not sure why we keep giving these medals to a guy who that's not his profession. That's not his area of expertise. It's just not. So why they're giving to him is a red flag, but we really know why they're giving it to him. I mean, let's be real. So, again, this is something that this was reported. They did this over a year ago. Did they ever revisit the shavings? Did they ever analyze the metals? Did they ever give anybody any answers or clarity or a sort of revisit as to, hey, this is what we found out? Turns out, yeah, it was very terrestrial. No, they never corrected it. Never, ever, ever corrected it. Another one, Coulthard presented this patch as belonging to a guy who worked in Area 51 in the 1990s and whose great-grandnephew, claimed it was from a reverse engineering program. Coulthard asked the internet to explain it. It was described by a military patch expert as being not that. But what did he do? Coulthard then investigated and presented these findings to clear up the stupid idea that it was related to an egg-shaped UFO. Did he reflect on how to do the research and assess sources given that his source lied? Of course not. Again, he just dropped it. So he made up these lies, that were associated this patch of reverse engineering program, an egg-shaped UFO. Did he correct on any of these things? Did he did he go back and say, hey, I got it wrong? Or you know what, here's some new facts that came to light, and so I think now we could correct this? No, he just doubles down. He doubles down, he doubles down, he doubles down. And then, I mean, Charlie doesn't even go on to mention the really egregious one, the really, really bad one, which was a report that he did for 60 Minutes in Australia on parliament members being child bad men. And he misreported that members of parliament were doing that and doubled down on it when they were all acquitted of those charges. Nobody ever went to jail, but people got fired from their jobs. They were ostracized from their communities, and Ross Coulthard never corrected it. He never, ever corrected it. As a matter of fact, the repercussion for that was he didn't get his contract renewed at 60 Minutes Australia. That's why he doesn't work there anymore. And so when he lost that gig, that's when he found his UFO passion. That's when he wrote a book. That's when he saw how much money there was in this. He's reported wrong on a lot of stories. And let's also just throw in there for good measure, a UFO so big that crashed that it could not be moved. So they built an entire facility around it. Oh, and by the way, it's not in the United States. But doesn't tell us where it is. Doubles down on it again. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And we just, a lot of the community just swallows this garbage. They just fall for it. They just defend it. It's so strange. It's so weird. It's so weird. Okay, finally, that brings us to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and the discussion that he had. Let's see here. Yep, saw that one. Okay, good. And the discussion that he had at the Hayden Center. And of course, the big one that at least caught my attention, amongst some other things, we're going to go into some of the other things, is this clip right here. And this was actually liked by the Hayden Center. And this is something that I've talked about quite a bit. The King Milford Harassment Archive has talked about this issue quite a bit. The question is, and this is, I think, where I disagree with the archive, is whether or not this, quote, UFO hate group is an organized effort at the behest of somebody within the UFO community, whether that be Lou Elizondo, whether that be whoever. There is no concrete evidence to prove that. But what there is a group of sycophants that don't need to be directed. They take it upon themselves to do everything that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick lists in this clip here, as far as harassment is concerned. And there is good reason now why some of this team that is working at AARO is not being publicly named. The reason why is because these psychopaths look up children's information. They look up their wives' information. They email their employers and their bosses and make up lies about them to try and get them fired or in trouble at work. All because the data that they're looking at does not lead to the narrative that the psychopath wants. And so because it doesn't, the data doesn't lead to aliens are real, reverse engineering programs are real, they're visiting us, they're abducting us. When the data does not lead there, they immediately try to find something in your past. They harass your friends, family, coworkers, bosses. They go above and beyond the normal harassment or jabbing of, being a thorn in someone's side. Like, I've never called somebody's boss. I've never called somebody's family member. I've never doxed anyone. Ever, 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 ever. But these guys do it all the time. And I just don't think it's like they meet in a meeting room and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? I think they just do it. They don't ask anyone. They don't think about it. They just do it. And the amount of victims in that wake are now starting to come together and speak out about this shit and speak out about this behavior. And now it's not just Twitter people. It's scientists at the Department of Defense. It's members of NASA. This is not just people with opinions. These are real, genuine scientists who, by the way, you guys begged for to look at this for you. You begged for real science to come in and start giving you some real, tangible answers on what people see. And so far, the data does not suggest any of those things are happening. That's not their fault. That's just where make people walk away from this because they're not interested in this shit anymore because it's so crazy that, again, like, no, they don't want
received from the UFO
they don't want
a persistent
any
question,
sort of truth. They want their truth.
A senior technical advisory group.
All right, so sorry. Let me play this one more time here, guys.
The harassment he has received from the UFO hate group.
A persistent question has to do with a senior technical advisory group that you must have stood up that is helping advise the work you do. So they're just questions about that group. What is it made up of? Are these people from outside government? Is this that academic and scientific community you just referenced?
So it's a strategic technical advisory group. They don't like to be called senior. And they actually do work. They're the review board for, the analytic framework consists of multiple layers of review, and they're one of the layers of review. We don't give out names and identities of anybody associated with this office other than me and a handful of very specific people because of the fact that the harassment and the threats that are attendant to our ability to do this job, and I know we had the same problem with the NASA panel. I'm not going to subject my team to that. I have some of the best professionals on the face of the planet working some of this, but I'm not going to subject them or their families to that kind of harassment that is making our job a lot harder. I've had people try to dig up information on my wife, my child, where I live, make threats, send harassments. That's not called for.
And what is the claim? Is the claim that you're evil because you haven't said what they want you to say about the sources of these anomalous sightings?
That's a great way of saying it, but I would put it a different way, right? I told everybody when we stood up, I would follow the data wherever it led.
Mm-hmm. Listen up.
That means you have to follow the data and the evidence where it leads. If you don't like where it leads, don't call me a liar and then come after me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is evidentiary scientific methodology and intelligence tradecraft. This is how the world works.
Yeah.
Do you got that? This is how the world works, you psychopaths. This is how real science is done. Listen to this.
To subject them or their families to that kind of harassment that is making our job a lot harder. I've had people try to dig up information on my wife, my child.
They've tried to dig information up on his wife and child. This is Sawan. This is King Milkfart. Who knows? Maybe even UAP Mike and these guys. Are they coordinated? I really don't think so, because they're just not that smart. I think they do these things at their own accord. The Bangkok Fords that call for dereliction of duty, and they call for Dr. Kirkpatrick's resignation and firing. What kind of harassment is that guy doing when the cameras is off? It's dangerous. It's dangerous rhetoric. Who looks up something on their child, on somebody else's child? I promise you, they're looking for mental disabilities so that way they can make fun of Sean Kirkpatrick. Because if he has, say, a child that has some sort of Down syndrome or something, then they could use that to attack him. They could use that to attack him. Just like UAP Mike did the other day. I can't even put it up. It's so disgusting, the thing he said about somebody's parents abusing them in the worst way. And that's a joke. That's a way to put somebody down for a UAP mic. And that's what these guys are capable of. And to think that yesterday, when all of this stuff happened, basically yesterday, almost everything that we talked about today happened either this week or yesterday. And then the icing on this cake was Lou Elizondo following King Milkfart's new account, which has solidified for a lot of people what kind of person Lou Elizondo is. And that those pinned attributes that he has on his Twitter profile are lies. They've just crumbled right in front of you. Just like they did for me a year ago when we found out he had sock puppets. I think this was the worst thing that Lou Elizondo could have done, because now it verifies. Before, people were questioning, oh, is Lou Elizondo aware of this harassment? Is he aware of the things that KMF has done? And, you know, of course, all of the Lou crew would be like, nah, he doesn't know. He doesn't pay attention. He doesn't look at this stuff. He had sock puppet accounts. He definitely looks at this stuff. He's definitely aware of what I'm saying. He's aware of what Greenwald is saying. He's aware of what King Milkfart is saying. And now we know this to be a fact because he followed the new account for King Milkfart, who was suspended by Twitter. Do you know how hard it is to have an account deleted by Twitter? Do you know how difficult that is to achieve? What kind of scumbag you have to be to get deleted from an Elon Musk platform? He opens a new account, and within 2 weeks, Lou Elizondo is following him. So he knows exactly what that scumbag is up to, and he endorses it with that follow. That's an endorsement of the harassment. It's an endorsement of Kirkpatrick getting vilified and harassed. It's an endorsement of his daughter being harassed. It's an endorsement of his family being harassed. It's an endorsement of NASA scientists being harassed by your Lou crew, by these guys that you are following. Even UAP Mike was like, yeah, I wouldn't have advised for him to do that. Why, Mike? Why wouldn't you advise for him to do that? King Milkfart's your friend. He's your buddy. You follow him. You guys retweet each other. You laugh at each other's bullshit. Like, you guys are best buddies. So why would you have advised? No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have. You've been like, I don't know, Lou. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Because you know what? Somebody's got to fight those haters. And that's what Lou sees these people as. That's what Lou sees Kirkpatrick as a hater. Someone who's trying to stop disclosure, which is highly inaccurate. And I love what Kirkpatrick says at the end here. You know, just a quick reminder of what science is, you absolute psychopaths. You know, like, welcome to the real world with this last statement here. If it plays, which it's not. Ah. Hmm.
I would follow the data wherever it led. Stood up, I would follow the data wherever it led. That means you have to follow the data and the evidence where it leads. If you don't like where it leads, don't call me a liar and then come after me. This is evidentiary scientific methodology and intelligence tradecraft. This is how the world works.
Yeah.
Sean
To
Kirkpatrick.
me, that is the spiciest I've heard Sean Kirkpatrick. And good for you, sir. I'm glad that you're adding some rationality to this discussion. I truly, truly am. I think it's much needed in this discussion. So let's see what other clips he had here. I know that Axelrod clipped out a couple things that I found interesting. So this is Kirkpatrick on balloons and the parallax effect,
these,
which is the exact thing that we figured out. Well, Mick West and NASA figured out through trigonometry that the Go Fast video was the parallax effect. It was an object moving 40 miles an hour, but because the plane's moving one way and the object's moving the opposite direction, it gives us, and there is a foreground to it, it gives an illusion that it's moving super fast when really it's just doing 40 miles an hour. So this is Kirkpatrick talking about balloons and the parallax effect.
Most of these, are very easily determined to be prosaic things that we can identify. And that is a training problem that we're working through.
Can you give us some examples of that? What is something that you put in that prosaic category that still comes to your office because someone's not familiar with what they're observing or what the sensor is reporting, but you can resolve it?
So the most simplest thing is a balloon, believe it or not. Right? And because why? Why is that a thing? We have a number of pilots who will see these off in the distance, and there is an optical illusion that they will often see. It's called parallax. We will actually be putting out a educational piece on it so that people understand what it is. But they see it, they don't understand it, they report it, and they write down in their report, this is a UAP. And in the description and in the fields of what they have to report to us, they will clearly say, however, it looks like a balloon, it's got a tether on it, it looks like it's flying with the wind. But because they mark it as a UAP, it comes to us.
Okay.
Right, and so now that's a training issue. That's don't mark it as a UAP if you know it's a balloon. That's a hazard, that's a flight safety issue, that's something else.
So again, it's a training issue. It's these pilots are reporting these things incorrectly, and they're getting confused by them in most cases. Professional pilots, and that's what's coming into his office is just the parallax effect. So it's a training issue. So again, it's just like these things, like we have to retrain these guys on what they're looking at. Like, it's as simple as that. And also just filling out paperwork properly. So this is an interesting part. Before Sean Kirkpatrick leaves, he says that he's going to publish within the next month to include findings from whistleblowers with reverse engineering claims. So let's listen to what he has to say about this, because this was another interesting moment in the discussion. I think a lot of people are reading way into this, and it's interesting that this is going to be the last thing he publishes before he retires from the AARO office. So I have a feeling it's not going to go the believer's way, but hey, we'll see.
You're looking at information from all kinds of sources. It's pilot reports, presumably. It's civilian reports. It's sensor readings. But there are also people who claim they've seen and heard things even within the government, the so-called whistleblowers and actual whistleblowers. How do you seek to get the information that they purport to know or have heard and bring that into the system in a way that still protects them when they're feeling that they haven't been heard before?
Right, that's a good question. So AARO has really two main missions, the way I break it up and describe it to people. We have the here and now forward operational mission, which is a lot of what we spend most of our time and effort on, what we've discussed thus far. We have the historical mission. So legislatively, I'm required to do exactly what Shane's speaking of, which is I need to bring in all of the people that have that claim of what they have information to share about programs they believe to be, relative to reverse engineering programs and whatnot. They are brought in under whistleblower protection status. We have full authorities across all of the DOD, IC, DOE, NASA to hear anything they have to say. We do that in a protected space. We document it, and then we ask them questions to try to get to things that I can go, like Shane has said, investigate. What can I go pull on? What can I go research? How can I go get evidence that helps support their case or their statements? That's a lot. That's very time consuming. I have a whole team that does nothing but that.
But it also requires that person to actually cooperate. That is not to just talk publicly, but to be willing to sit and answer questions and provide evidence that they may have. And there may be a case that you're thinking of here that has been public recently.
AARO absolutely wants to hear from all of them. And I want to make something very clear. When people come in, just because somebody has something that they say, and they say that they've seen this, they've heard this, they've been told this.
That is Dave Grush to a T, or anyone else that comes into this office and has claims. Listen up. This is really important what he's about to say.
That's the starting point. That's not the ending point, right? No matter how many times somebody wants to say that this is X is true, unless I have something to research and we can go validate. And we have access to all of the National Archives, all of the agency archives, all of the service archives, every program we need access to, and we go and dig into those, all right? And I've had people come, I've had a lot of very good individuals come in and interview and put their statements on the record and have helped us, pick out, here are some things to go research, and we go and do. And we go and get evidence one way or the other. And then we have to pull that together into a historical record report, which is due in June of next year. But given the appetite for all of this, we're not going to wait till June of next year, and I've decided to break it up into 2 volumes. So volume 1, I will sign out before I retire next month.
We were hoping it would be out today and we could talk about it.
Yeah, the coordination process is long.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
But I will do that before I retire.
Okay.
So there you go. He's going to give you guys some information about these reverse engineering programs and what they found so far. And that the stories, the claims that people come to the office with, that's the starting point. You've got to investigate it, which means they need time. They need time to investigate these things. But you should take as a good sign of faith, this report wasn't due until June, and you're going to get it this year. You're going to get it 6 months early. When does government ever do that? When does government ever deliver early? So you'll get the second half, I'm assuming, by at the very latest June of next year when it's actually due. So why all this hate for Kirkpatrick, man? Like, he is a scientist. He's a veteran. But yet we have no problem disrespecting him. We've got no problem harassing him. We've got no problem doxing his family, his children. That's insane. The double standard is insane. Over here, it's okay to harass, but over here, don't you dare. Don't you dare do it. So stupid. Let me see here. Yeah, that was a really good. Okay, so this is a great moment here as well. This is Kirkpatrick on non-human intelligence versus extraterrestrial terminology. So it's not new. It's been around since the 50s, but this this Renaissance acronym, NHI, which means non-human intelligence, is making a comeback in these discussions and in legislative, paperwork. So Kirkpatrick's going to give you the distinction of NHI versus extraterrestrial terminology.
Is there a distinction when you refer to extraterrestrial versus non-human intelligence?
Well, if I remember correctly, non-human intelligence was originally coined in the 1950s on one of the historical documents that turned out to be fake, on a handbook, I believe it was. It has then cropped back up, and it's in proposed legislation, and we don't necessarily discuss proposed legislation because it's proposed legislation. So I can't really tell you. If we need to adjust a definition later in life, great. I'm all for it.
It would seem to me that in the universe of all possible explanations, that's important. But what you said earlier about it not being diagnostic doesn't help much, because something that is not extraterrestrial, that is, it's of Earth origin, but it's non-human, it's what, Atlantean or some other dimensional issue that happens to be within this planet. If you don't have signatures for either one of those, it doesn't help you. You're simply still saying, we can't explain it with known terrestrial and human technology. Unless some dolphins get really creative and you're able to nail that down. Right?
Lasers with dolphins on their, or dolphins with lasers on their head.
Well, we know who did that. And Dr. Evil is not a source of yours, right?
It's actually my call sign.
Oh my God. The nutball's going to go crazy for that one. That's his call sign, Dr. Evil, for Dr. Kirkpatrick. I love it. So funny. But yeah, he's basically saying, like, yeah, the term NHI came in a handbook in the 50s, and now it's cropped back up again in proposed legislative documents. But we're not, like, there's no point in talking about that until it's actually real documents. If you want to change the definition, go for it, if that's what's needed. He doesn't really care one way or the other. But it seems like NHI is just a new hot term for extraterrestrial instead of saying extraterrestrial, because everybody thinks that it's got all this baggage with it. And the reason why it's got all this baggage with it is because a whole bunch of nutballs have added baggage to it. And so they're looking for a new, simpler, cleaner thing to say, and NHI is one of those things. But again, it doesn't matter one way or the other to him. It is funny that they went to, but if whatever the entity is doesn't fit one of these descriptions, could be Atlantean or interdimensional, of course, that's just speculation, right? So something that is not extraterrestrial, but is of Earth origin, but is non-human. It's Atlantean or an interdimensional issue that happens to be within this planet. If you don't have a signature for either one of those, it's not going to help you. You're simply still saying we can't explain it with known terrestrial human technology. Kirkpatrick's like, right. If that's what it is, right? So again, like, go where the evidence leads. If that's where it leads, then that's where we'll go. It's so funny. Yeah, he's got like some of these questions absolutely do tire him. And yeah, here's one of the pictures of the Kermit the Frog, what people were drawing after the Jeremy Corbell High Noon drop. This is what people were making right here. So, again, it's just amazing. Let's see. I'm gonna write a drum solo for UFO Joe and record it. It says there's like 11,000 likes on what? My video? No, that can't be right. No. Kermit Gate. Oh man, love it. So yes, I mean, those are like the main clips out of the conference. Those are the ones that stuck out. I'm sure everybody's gonna, take their own meaning to things and attach it to, what Kirkpatrick says. But I mean, in all honesty, when you listen to this, you could tell that he's had it up to here with this. He doesn't want to look at this anymore. Primarily, probably because of all of the harassment that he gets, but also because there's nothing really interesting there. It's just a lot of misidentifications and people not understanding what they're looking at when it comes to data within, other government files or compartments. That is, so. This is one thing that, of course, I feel like a lot of the believers have ran with. It's this clip right here. I'm not sure if this is the whole clip, but it's Shane Harris from the Washington Post who was interviewing Dr. Kirkpatrick, says that he's interviewed a half dozen people who have claimed to have knowledge of this reverse engineered program. Yeah, let's listen to what he has to say. For some reason, my internet's lagging a little bit here. Give me a moment. I'm gonna actually, probably because I'm streaming the show while I'm streaming the show. Oh. He's not fat, he's Rubenesque. There we go. Oh my God. He's a husky boy who wears Huscaroos. And again, this is not something I would ever make fun of somebody for. Ever. This is not my style. Right? It's not something that I go out of my way to do. But for the last 3 years, this guy has been saying the same thing over and over. And for 3 years, I haven't really brought it up once. And when I heard that yesterday, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this fat kid committing fat crimes. Dude, you can't be out here calling fat people fat when you're fat yourself. You can't be doing that. That is the dumbest of the dumb. Talk about low, man. Jesus. It's just so dumb. Yeah, I mean, Matt was a fat kid. He understands what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm checking my text right now, buddy. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Wow, it was my show, huh? That's interesting. Yeah, I think people have been having issues with the likes. I heard Alien Girl was having some kind of issue like that. But she was also missing viewers. It doesn't look like we're missing viewers. We have a pretty full room. So, yeah, I think it's going all right. So anyway, let's listen to what this journalist has to say.
In the past 6 or 7 months, I've probably interviewed about half a dozen people who claim to have knowledge of a reverse engineering program of crashed material or artifacts or craft, however you want to call it. Mm-hmm. That is something I actively talk to people about. We have not published anything about that yet, but I am looking into it. And I spend a lot of my time looking into things. I probably publish in general about, in the past 6 or 7 months, I've probably interviewed about half a dozen people who claim to have knowledge of a reverse engineering program of crashed material or artifacts or craft, however you want to call it. Mm-hmm. That is something I actively talk to people about. We have not published anything about that yet, but I am looking into it. And I spend a lot of my time looking into things. I probably publish in general about, in the past 6 or 7 months, I've probably interviewed
in
about
6 or 7 months, he's talked to these people, half a dozen people, but they haven't published anything yet. And I'm interested to see if they're going to publish anything yet. But he's looking into it. People are looking into these claims, guys. I'm being warned when Shane Harris comes out with an article titled Reverse Engineering Claims Turns Out Nothing to It, or something along those lines, or Reverse Engineering Claims Are True, Just Not Alien. Don't be pissed off at Shane Harris when he does that, because he's looking into it. And when they get their answers, I have a feeling you guys aren't going to like them. But hey, whatever. Kat says, Lou, shout out for my dog who had an operation today. Love you, bruv. Shout out to your dog. What's your dog's name? I hope your dog feels better. I love dogs. I want to get a dog so bad. But Michelle is allergic, so we can't have one. At least not yet. Not in an apartment. Anyway, so that was that. And let's see. Did I have anything else pinned here? I don't think so. I think that's all the news that I wanted to talk about today. We talked about Lou Elizondo, doing his thing, following, King Milkfart again. So we know that's, we went over everything. It's all out there. Anyway, you guys, this was a really fun show. I had a good time. I was really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to every stream now. It's so funny. Man, I really wish I could tell you guys what I was working on, but I will tell you this part because this part was funny. Let's just say I was in a production meeting yesterday, and let's say a certain lighting technician's name came up naturally in the conversation. It was very interesting to hear. Hollywood's a small town, Bangkok Ford, a real small town. So just be careful, man. Be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. Be careful of the shit you talk about people and the things you do publicly, because you don't know how that's gonna come bite you in the ass professionally. You just don't. Not to say that it will, but this town is a lot smaller than you think. That's what I will say. So, be careful what you spout as facts out there. Anyway. So you guys, that was the show. Please don't forget to smack that like button, share and subscribe as well, and ring the bell. That way you guys are notified anytime we go live. If you want to support us with the almighty dollar, of course, there are ways to do that. The link are in the description below. Matt Gord. Once again, thank you for embarking on this journey of discovery together with me. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and thank you for subscribing to Lou Reviews. Until next time, thank you guys for helping raise the bar. I really appreciate it. See you soon. Peace. Good night, Pat Calabria. Thank you, Screen Name, for being here. Do have plenty of hair, right? It's a good thing. At least I'm not a fat, bald guy. That's probably the worst. Thank you for being here, Swim McLeod, Simon Fly, Silly Goose, Skinny Bob, False Garen, Fifi Barbora, James Craig. Haven't seen the Breeder Syndicate 3.0 here in a while, but thanks, man, for being here. Love when you're here. Love when I hear your voice in this community. It's always so refreshing and hilarious. Like, the best. If you guys want to... I'm curious to know what Breeder Syndicate thinks of Snoop Dogg quitting the smoking game. Snoop Dogg is no longer smoking marijuana. Strange days. Strange days. Silly Goose, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. I think I already said that, but just in case I didn't. Duncan Furry. Avi Loeb, another one. He is. Anyway, guys, have a great night.